Thank you so much for joining our webinar series today, DLT and Blockchain in the Real World. We created this series at Hedera to highlight how different applications are being used in production to solve real challenges and with real users. In our past webinars, we've learned a lot about a variety of different companies across all these different industries: media and entertainment, healthcare, agriculture, advertising, so many different ones. And we've talked about the use cases of tokenization and data integrity. And today, we actually have an application that is going to be able to use both of those use cases. Dovu, they're a DeFi carbon offsetting platform that's built on Hedera Hashgraph. We're joined by Irfan Watkins. He's the founder and CEO of Dovu, and he's going to dive into some of the challenges that exist in the renewable energy credit market today, which Dovu addresses. We also have Matthew Smithies. He's the CTO of Dovu, and he's going to explain why Hedera was chosen as their DLT of choice and talk a little bit about their overall architecture with Hedera, including an open source Trust Enterprises API that they've built themselves that they're using that you can use as well to be able to make it easier to build on Hedera Hashgraph. You'll also be shown an exclusive demo of the Dovu application, so that'll be very exciting to see as well. We'll leave some time at the end of the webinar for Q&A, so be sure to drop in your questions into the specific Q&A box, not the chat box in Zoom. And we expect today's event to go around 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how many questions we get. So to kick things off, we have some new folks that are joining us today. And so I'm going to be doing a quick overview of Hedera's primary services that are going to be used by Dovu, look at the governing council that governs Hedera Hashgraph, and a grant program that we just launched with Filecoin. And then I'm going to pass things off over to Irfan, and they're going to jump into it. Let's get started. So as you see here, this is an overview of the entire Hedera ecosystem. Underlying the network, we have the Hashgraph consensus mechanism. That is the consensus mechanism that is exclusively used by the Hedera network. On top of that, there are the two primary network services, the token service and the consensus service, both of which are used for tokenization and data integrity use cases. We'll learn a little bit about that from Dovu today. All of that is governed by the Hedera Governing Council. So the Governing Council makes decisions for the direction of the network. They manage the HBAR treasury. They are the guiding governors of the direction of the code base. And then on top of those network services, we have a bunch of applications and end users of those applications across various use cases and industries. Decentralized identities, supply chain payments. A lot of these we've gone through in some of our previous webinars that you can look back on. Today specifically, we're going to be talking about the Hedera token service as a primary aspect of the Dovu application. In talking to application developers who are using the Hedera token service, we found that there's 5 key things that they have found as a reason for choosing us over some comparable public ledgers. The first is configurable compliance. So built into the token service, there's account level KYC verification, freeze, token supply management, and other ways of being able to abide by certain regulations that are going to present themselves over time. It's programmable. So over time, we're starting to see that there's native programmability built into the token service. It started out with things like atomic swaps, where you're able to transfer custom tokens and swap them with an NFT or even HBAR. We've started to evolve that to see scheduled transactions become part of the token service. And then just recently released custom fees, which is going to go live on mainnet on August 5th, the ability to create fees for your tokens to do things like NFT royalties or create protocols using a token that enable you to be able to pay for that protocol's services. Low predictable fees is a really big one. So there's stable fees when you're using the token service. It costs about $1 to create a token type and less than a cent to transfer those tokens. Built-in governance, which we'll talk about in just a second. There's 39 global governing council members, large companies and organizations that govern the network. With that, there's a no fork guarantee on the Hedera network. So if you do deploy a token, if the network were to do a hard fork, which it won't do. You don't have to decide which token is the correct token to be abiding by. There's no split in cryptocurrencies that are used. It's all one network. It does not fork. And then native tokens. So there's no smart contracts involved when using the token service. You can deploy NFTs and fungible tokens without having to use smart contracts. They use the same performance, security, and eco-friendliness, which is important for Dovu, of Hashgraph consensus. So as mentioned, the governing council governs the direction of the network. Here's some details on what that looks like. It's a decentralized body of 39 global organizations, wide variety of industries, including university and nonprofit can be involved. Every member is required to run a network node, and they actually own a portion of Hedera Hashgraph LLC, an equal portion. Members are compensated. They have equal influence. There's various committees involved to be able to make decisions for the network. So, as mentioned before, we had programmability for the Hedera token service for things like custom fees. It was actually submitted by members of the community and then voted upon by the technical steering committee of the council. So they're making those types of decisions. There's term limits, so it's decentralized by time also. So 3-year maximum term with 2 consecutive terms. And we've got the council members that are initially selected by the first council members worlds, and the rest of them are going to be found through the council committee. These are the members of the Hedera Governing Council today. A lot of large global companies dispersed across the globe. And then finally, we have a grant program that recently launched with Filecoin. It's a $200,000 grant program targeting developers. And there's 2 categories that you can participate in as a developer. The first one is building an open source decentralized storage SDK and NFT marketplace demo. There's going to be one winner for that. It's a $75,000 grant. And the expectation is that with that in the community, any developer can go and easily create NFTs on Hedera while storing supplemental metadata or multimedia, such as images or videos, in a fully decentralized way on the Filecoin network. In addition, to prove that SDK works and to build a reference architecture, we're asking the people that are building that to build an open source NFT marketplace. In addition, there's 5 winners with $125,000 worth of grants to build real-world applications that utilize both Filecoin and the Hedera token service. You can find more information and submit your proposals at hedera.com/Filecoin grant. And actually, the Dovu team is going to be participating in this program as well, and has a little bit to say about their participation there. So excited to learn a little bit about that. With that, I'm going to pass things over to Irfan and Matt, and they'll talk a bit about Filecoin, about Dovu. Oop, I think you may be on mute, Irfan.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Thanks, Brady, and thanks to everyone for giving their time to hear what we've been up to at Dovu. We're really excited at the stage that the company's at right now. For those of you who don't know much about Dovu, I mean, we were founded back in 2017, backed by Jaguar Land Rover, and we sort of started to build a platform to tokenize and reward sort of positive action, really, within the mobility sector. But one thing that we couldn't ignore really was the carbon footprint of our industry, and therefore we wanted to shift our focus to build a sort of a trusted layer. Where we were able to, a trusted layer of carbon credits, really, with a focus on carbon stored within the soil. Carbon in the soil is 75% of all land-based carbon. So we wanted to sort of really concentrate on that. Can you go to the next slide, please?
There we go.
So one of the things when we decided to focus on Dovu Earth and really apply all of our attention and resources to that, we took a look at the current sort of systems in place. And what we sort of saw really was that there wasn't a sort of a trust layer from beginning to end in terms of carbon credits. How do I know that my money has actually only been spent on carbon once? In other words, the carbon on offer hasn't been sold and then resold and resold. So we wanted a sort of, a process from beginning to end. And the current systems that were out there, were private centralized agencies that were the sort of trust centers of this of this type of carbon credit sort of platform. And they adopted expensive onboarding processes and then followed them up by audits. So they were very centralized. And of course, with decentralized ledger technologies and what we were looking to build, we wanted to sort of disrupt that and change that. So with the help of Hedera, the distributed ledger platform that we're building, community input, transparent methodologies, we build a safer, sort of transparent and more scalable offering. And our mission really is to sort of frictionlessly enable all sort of crypto tokens and fiat currencies to participate within our carbon marketplace, pay carbon farmers, and encourage regenerative farming practices, sort of to help to build and protect local communities. Can you go to the next slide, please? So, we built this platform, and Matt's going to show you, where we're at with this to sort of build this layer of trust that I talk about. But the most important, one of the other sort of important elements of it is that the proof of carbon and this within the supply has to be verified. So what's absolutely essential is that we work with third parties. We call them verifiers, and these verifiers use methodologies, industry scientifically approved methodologies to count the carbon, within the carbon projects that we work with. As I say, we're focusing on soil, right now, and that's to join our marketplace, they have to be verified by these third parties, and then we're able to sort of mint our carbon NFTs with all of the sort of back-in and data that's needed in order to sort of verify them. And then when the purchaser wants to purchase those carbon credits, then what we can do is ledger that purchase against that specific carbon supply. Next slide, please, Matt. And what we've been doing up to now is building, obviously, the platform and the marketplaces, but also a number of different tools as well. Liquidity is important when you have a token, so we've been building up our liquidity pool, but also some nice little, sort of products. We built a carbon calculator where you can plug in your MetaMask. And this is on Ethereum to start with, but you can take a look at your MetaMask transactions on Ethereum, and then we'll calculate the amount of carbon that you've used, and then we'll nudge you to sort of to acquire some Dovu, which is and then you can offset your carbon footprint with Dovu. It's just a really simple way of highlighting really the impact that you're having through your trade-in or token transfers within the Ethereum network. And we are just about to launch carbon market cap, which we're really excited about. And again, we're here to sort of, we're within the industry. We're big supporters of the industry. We love what we're doing, but we do want to highlight sort of a nudge and encourage and help different sort of behaviors and offsetting behaviors within our industry. So the carbon market cap, if you can go on to the next slide, Matt, that'd be great. So the carbon market cap is basically, we've tracked from Genesis the whole Ethereum chain and every project within it, and we've taken using methodologies which are public and transparent. We're able to calculate really the carbon debt of each project, and we can do that on a daily basis as well. And I think and then sort of indicate methods and ways of offsetting that. And this is all done in a positive way. It's not done to sort of be disparaging on anything. And we'll move on from Ethereum onto other chains and other DLTs, again, with the same sort of principle in mind. So, we'll be launching that very soon, probably in a matter of days. And we look forward to getting all feedback based on everything that we're doing with these tools. So with that in mind, I'm going to hand you over really to the meat of the presentation today, and that's over to Matt, who's our CTO, who can actually give you a real live demo of what we've been building.
Thank you very much, Irvan. Let's try to get this started. So I guess the purpose of kind of my side of the webinar is kind of break down the architecture we're using and kind of give a product demo. And what we're effectively building is a system to allow the issuance, the maintenance and retirement of carbon credits, a platform to enable that. This is going to be about 20 or so minutes. But firstly, this is kind of how everything is kind of glued together. We've got about 5 different core sections from the project validators who go out and source the carbon, who verify the supply and work with consultants in order to make sure everything is up to spec. We have an administration panel where we can dive in and we can actually mint these credits. We can create the projects around them and continually update them with proofs. And through that, we can publish them. The interesting thing is we kind of name these credits CDOVs. And for those who kind of like acronyms, I kind of consider these CDOVs to be dynamic NFTs. This is kind of a new concept this year, I believe, but it's this idea of taking a real life asset and connecting it to an infinite amount of evidence. So in this case, we have soil. And so we can measure soil, we can measure the carbon, we can measure the changes over time. The third component is almost like the trust layer. That's connecting to trust enterprises, our API. And this is completely open source and it's really flexible in terms of connecting to the consensus service, connection to the token service, and it's really easy to add your own features in and write tests, and all that kind of stuff is open source. And that talks to HTS and HCS through Hedera. We also have added NFT storage for Filecoin and IPFS, so that we know that our CDOVs, our NFTs, are durable and they can be trusted. And on the left side, we have kind of the user view. So we have payments for redemptions, and so we have almost like a Stripe fiat on ramp to purchase our NFTs. And we're working with a wallet custodial called Venly, who is helping us build out a multi-chain kind of payment mechanism. So you can on-ramp to Dovu on Binance, on Polygon, on Ethereum, and you'll be able to utilize those Dove to pay or redeem CDOVs, which is really exciting. After redemption, it comes to a user profile page where users can view projects, they can view their retired carbon account, and they can export. And we'll do a little note about certificates later. So time for the demo. Cool. So this here is our main page. This is, if you go to dovu.dev, this is what you'll see. And these are kind of projects that will be listed. And to begin, we're going to create a NFT end-to-end. And then on the back of that, we're going to actually redeem it, and you will be able to see it in your account. So firstly, we're going to open up our administration panel here, and we're going to start with creating of an asset. We have different sections here which describe an asset, the individual proofs, the project itself, and photos connected to the project. And we can slowly build up a profile. So first, we're going to create an asset, and I'm just going to call this Matt's Farm. I'm just going to give it the symbol farm, and I'm going to give it a supply of 100. The really cool thing about this is we're utilizing the supply keys from within HTS, so that if we get updates of proof in terms of a supply or an increase or a decrease or additionality or leakage within a carbon project, we can actually adjust the tons of carbon that could be offered on the marketplace. We create carbon asset, and behind the scenes it creates a number of different things. We have the project and an offer. A project is what we adjust to change the descriptions, imagery, and all that fun stuff. And I'm going to show you my account on testnet. So here, this is my account on testnet. I've got quite a short number, so I'm quite fortunate about that. But you can see here, these are just the events that have just been triggered. We have a consensus topic, we have a token, and we have kind of a genesis message that will hook up to the token, or the topic even. So the best way of thinking about this is we're combining HTS and HCS together. I can prove this by clicking on the token create button, and you can see this memo down here. So this here describes the company, us, Dovu. The second parameter describes a symbol. And the third parameter is a pointer to the topic ID for the consensus service. So if I paste this in here, you can start to build up a profile of all of the proofs that's directly connected to a token. So this token can move from person to person, and they will always have an increase in data visibility. So let's continue. We're going to first update the project with some description and some imagery. So we're just going to come in and edit. And let me just paste in some bits and bobs. So this is some description here. You can add some imagery. So let's just add a I think it's the background section. Yep. And I'm just going to add a little avatar. I update the project. And the great thing about this is if you're logged in as an administrator, you can slowly build up this project over time. You can actually see the remaining offset value, how much of the carbon supply there is remaining. And you can kind of click through and kind of see this be built up. Next, we're going to add some project photos. So I'm going to add 4 photos in. Here we are. So one here. I'm going to create and add 3 more. Number 3. And the final one here. Cool. And so this is very kind of basic kind of web app stuff, but you can kind of see how you can build up these things, you can build up these stories for people to kind of view. Next, we're going to add proof, and I'm going to show you exactly how these things are connected together, how kind of the IPFS or Filecoin system kind of works in place as well. So once again, I'm going to click on our project here. And then we've got the asset. Down here, we're going to add some proof. So I'm just going to paste in some bits and bobs. Paste that one there. Paste that in there. And I'm going to grab this PDF here. So I'm just going to click on create and add another, because we're going to add another to the mix. But these evidences, these documents, these images, it can be truly anything. And in the background, it's going to be updating. I'm just going to just refresh the page and try that again. A network connection problem or something. Just add that one. Then create and add another. There we are. So that carbon asset proof was created. And if I come back now to my account, we should see the consensus message being added to the list shortly. Drum roll, please. There it is. It comes right through. And so we click here, and then we have got two messages in the topic. And this message here points to the actual evidence, the proof, with the IPFS backup through Filecoin. I'm going to add one more, but first, once I go to the farm and refresh, you can actually see these recent proof updates, these evidences. And so these evidences are a good way for buyers of carbon to kind of go through and check that everything is what it seems, and anything kind of proves the carbon is in the ground. So we'll do a final one. And this time it's just going to be just an image. There we are. And so, like, once again, on this topic, if we wait a few seconds, there it is, it's appeared again. And so this one, like before, relates to the recent evidence proof. And so this kind of usage of decentralized storage means that our tokens are more resilient and they can be trusted, and it doesn't matter where the files are stored. So from that point of view, we have just created a new carbon asset linked to the proof using this kind of dynamic non-fungible kind of mechanism. And this is effectively what a CDOV is. I think next we're going to publish it, and we're going to run through what it looks like for a user to redeem or purchase. So next, go to the asset, go to our project, and just hit published and update. Now I should be able to go to my homepage and I can view both projects in a thing state. So now here, this is what a user would see when they come. They can either redeem with Dove or purchase with Stripe. The redemption mechanic is interesting. We can click here, and this is us working with Venly. And what this is going to enable us to do is provide this system for a cross-chain kind of a cross-chain mechanism. So you can come in and you can connect to your account, and behind the scenes, it will actually check what Venly accounts you have set up, and it will actually check what kind of Dove balances you have in store. Let's see if that comes through. This is something that we're currently building up at the moment. But as an example, I have one wallet that has no Dove balance, but I can actually come in and manage all my wallets from within the Dovu app. Secondly, we have this purchase with Stripe button. So I click here, and this is just any Stripe any kind of Stripe or payment or fiat payment you're used to. And you can add some, however many kind of tons of carbon you want to offset by purchasing CDOV. Type in your name and your account details. So in this case, this is a kind of test environment for Stripe. And so you can't steal my credit card. And we're just going to pay. And the redemption of the carbon happens at point of purchase. And you can actually come in and view your projects. So here, for instance, this is my profile page. And I've just kind of acquired 12.11 tons of carbon, these kind of carbon NFTs. But the really cool thing here is we have a retired carbon account. And this is an account that every Dovu user has. So we have cryptographic proof when a carbon, when like a token, a carbon credit was actually retired. And this actually links back to the transfer of the HTS token, the CDOV. So that's kind of cool. From within this profile, like you say, you can view your retired account, you can view all the details, and you can also export a basic credit log the kind of the carbon log. Oh dear, I've got the weird thing in the way. Never mind. Let me move that down there. There we are. Let's see if that appears for us. And so here, for instance, this is a basic kind of log. And this is just our initial kind of pass at this. But the idea here is if you purchase carbon from the same project twice, we have a timestamp of exactly when that happened in time and when it was retired at. One thing we're working on at the moment is this idea of Dovu certificates. Specifically, that's going to use Hedera Hashgraph state proofs. So we have a transaction, you have a file from that. That means you have cryptographic proof of when a carbon credit was retired without having to use Dovu or any other third-party service, and you can manage that kind of system by yourself. So yeah, it's very exciting. And I'm going to jump back to the presentation. Oh, cool. You want to carry on over?
Yeah, no, thanks, Max. Sorry. Yeah, I think really is Q&A. I've been looking at the chat and some of the Q&A stuff that's sort of coming up there, but I think for us really it's about getting in to answer any questions that sort of come our way.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for diving into that and for the live demo. I know there was a lot of Q&A that came throughout that. I'm so excited to get to some of these questions. So the first one that comes up is asking about the relationship with Jaguar, actually. Is it connected with Dovu, and is there any updates on how that collaboration is going?
Yeah, so Jaguar were one of our seed investors. This is before we did a sort of token event. We sort of were through their venture capital partner, wholly owned subsidiary called In Motion Ventures. So so they're still, as I say, they're a seed investor in Dovu, but we do not have any ongoing projects with them, right now. As I mentioned in the early, when I did the intro, really, we started looking at the tokens in a different way when we started the business, and then sort of focused solely on Dovu.earth. And so yeah, we don't have any projects right now with them.
A few questions have come through sort of with the same theme around tapping into the actual farms and projects and how they're measuring carbon capture through the soil. Like, what are they doing on their end to be able to surface that information to folks that are using the Dovu platform?
Yeah, that's the sort of that's been a really interesting sort of process for us, because we've been through that same journey ourselves. How do we prove carbon, basically? How do we count this carbon in the soil? And there are a number of different sort of mechanisms and methodologies for sort of doing that. Not all of them are in agreement as to which one is right and which one isn't. So there are. What we do is we've gone with an organization that sort of sampled 10,000 different farms, and what they look at is the regenerative farming practices of that farm. So they take a huge amount of data around the amount of livestock that's on that farm, how much fertilizer is used or not used, what type of fertilizer, what ground crop cover, and so on. The mix between woodland and arable, all those sort of elements sort of will play into the sort of carbon sort of calculation. And then what happens is you've got to then have additionality. So how do you, it's no good just sort of saying, hey, this is what the farm has done in the past. It's got to be what are they going to continue to do for the next 20 years, and what type of contract can we take and put in place in order for that regenerative farming to be an additional store of carbon, within that land. And that's why we use our verifiers. That's why we use our third-party organizations. We are not trying to be overnight farming experts or regenerative farming experts. What we're doing is building the platform to build a layer of trust between the buyer of carbon and the seller of carbon. And we're making it as simple as possible and as frictionless to allow the third-party verifiers, who are the scientists, who are the farming experts, to work with the farms to sort of to then sort of put those projects into our marketplace. But going forward, I think what's really exciting is the use of satellites, the use of AI, the use of, there's a lot of really interesting tools that are going to scale up the ability to test the amount of carbon stored within farms and stored within soil, and that's moving at pace. There's a very interesting project over in Switzerland, backed by Google, which is using satellite imagery and AI in order to sort of to track really the sequestration, as they call it, of carbon within soil.
Excellent.
Long answer.
Yeah, no, it's good. That's a good explanation of sort of how Dovu fits in the middle between those buyers and sellers, people who are on farms running these projects. A question around Dove, Dove, and the marketplace that's being built. Is there a paper or some information that explains the relationship between those two and then dynamic supply?
Yeah, I mean, no. I think I think we'll be releasing more information around the relationship between, and the sort of the relationship between the existing Dove token and then the Dove NFT token, and the utility of that, and also the token economics of how that works, especially across multiple chains. And this, and we're really looking forward to this sort of the bridge to Hedera as well. I think there's a film called that, isn't it? So I'm really looking forward to that as well. We'll bear with us. We're working through that, but the Dove token is at the heart of what we do, and is an essential element in the future of the business.
Excellent. We've got a number of folks who are working within the energy sector or the sustainability sector interested in reaching out to collaborate with the Dovu team. Is there the best way to reach out to you and the team that we could share with them?
Yeah, just reach out to me. We're a very open palm, transparent, sort of small team and engaged. So irfan@dovu.io, as IRFON, is the best way. And if I can't answer your questions, I'll direct it to someone who can.
Okay, excellent. I'll drop that in the chat too, so folks have it.
Great.
Let's see. Is the Dove liquidity pool live?
Yep, it is. We have a liquidity pool on Uniswap, which is live, and if you go to dovu.earth and take a look at, you'll see a sort of direction there as to where to go.
Awesome. Do farmers get compensated for the carbon credits that Dovu is selling to large corporations? And is there specific types of farms that Dovu prefers to work with?
Yeah, I mean, what's really just to give you some background on me, I'm a farmer's son, so I sort of grew up on a farm, and so I'm very passionate about actually rewarding farmers for regenerative farming and using carbon as a crop, basically the same way as they use any other sort of product that's coming from that sort of farm. So we want to be as frictionless as possible, to get from the buyer of the carbon right through to the farmer. So when we look at those NFTs that Matt was showing you, it's really going to showcase who the farmer is, a little bit about how they farm, very personalized information, little video clips of what's going on in that farm as well, because actually that purchase of carbon is going to go directly to that farmer. We will take a platform transactional fee, but it's really all about, making farming communities thrive and farmers are very proud of the products that they create, and they do look historically at sort of across generations when they make farming decisions. There are investments made for future generations, and we're going to be very proud to be part of that mix.
And is Dovu only working with carbon capture that are on farms, or is this any sort of carbon capture type project or initiative that you would accept on the platform?
Yeah, I mean, we'll accept anyone. I mean, anyone, we won't accept anyone. What I'm saying is that one of the challenges that's out there right now, I mean, most carbon projects, when we took a look at it, the simplest thing for us to do would be to plug into the existing projects that are out there. But when I took a look at that last mile, how can I prove that that tree was planted? And how can I prove that that tree is still going to be there 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, from now? And there are other projects such as like cooking stoves and other things that are out there, which I don't feel a sense of comfort give the carbon sort of additionality that we sort of got. So we want to, if we're going to build a layer of that we've got confidence that there's a long-term value in the projects that we've got, and they can be measured, a lot simpler and easier. And soil, that it was 75% of the carbon store as well, seemed to be an underutilized resource in order to provide carbon credits to what is a hugely growing market. There's just not enough verifiable good projects out there from a supply side to meet the demand of organizations that are looking to offset. So we're happy to talk to any project that is able to sort of meet the requirements really of trust and proof.
Awesome. And to that point, you mentioned organizations purchasing carbon credits. Would you say that that's your target buyer? Are those the folks that you're going after, or are you looking for maybe crypto users that are looking to offset the carbon footprint of their transactions in their Ethereum wallet, or what's the main persona there?
We've got, as I was showing earlier, we've got this little tool that plugs your MetaMask into your transactions, and that's a simple way for a crypto user to sort of offset their behavior, basically. However, when we launch Carbon Market Cap, you will see the carbon footprint of all of the projects that have launched on Ethereum, for example, and it's not small, it is vast. And I think to put that debt onto the individuals is the wrong thing. I think that, to fix the problems that we have in the world, I think to push them onto the little guy is just too easy for corporations. And I think yes, we can nudge behavior. Yes, we can give simple tools to help people do things better. But our focus really is going to be, will primarily be on corporations. And whether that's crypto corporations or, as we all know in this community, they'll soon become just corporations. They just happen to be using DLTs or tokens, but it'll be corporations that we'll be talking to mainly to sort of say, hey, look, guys, what can you do? You may not want to deal with your historical debt, carbon debt, but actually going forward, there are some simple things that you can do to sort of deal with your present and future.
Excellent. There's a few questions about, I think it may be an application that's within a similar space called Regan Network. Is that something you're familiar with? Is there sort of a comparison that you can give between Dovu and this other organization?
Yeah, no, I'm familiar. They've done some good work and some projects over in Australia, I think, with Microsoft. Have bought some carbon sort of credits off them, and I believe they recently did a token event as well. So I think there's a lot of similarities between the projects. Obviously they don't use Hedera, and and I think that it's really weird. We don't want to be in a competitive sort of race, to sort of for sort of carbon storage and sort of carbon sort of credits. So it's strange. I think that the world that we're in isn't a sort of winner, who takes all. It's really about sort of, is the work that we're doing, is the work that Regen are doing, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of others coming downstream as well. Is it actually, you know, sort of providing a more transparent, you know, frictionless process so that people who are either carbon skeptics, even they, you know, can't find an excuse not to do better because it's so easy to do and it's a transparent, seamless sort of process to do. And I think that's our goal really, is to sort of, is to say, look, guys, if you're a skeptic, that's fine, but this is as transparent as you're going to get. So, you know, don't hide behind lack of transparency to stop changing your behavior. Just admit it, but you don't want to do anything about it.
Yeah, I like that. And the transparency that I think these public networks provide is leaps and bounds ahead of what existed before. Do you anticipate like an overarching platform or log that shows carbon credits across all of these different projects at some point, so that there's additional transparency to prevent that sort of double counting, double spend problem?
Yeah, I think there's going to have to be, you know, there has to be, you know, that sort of, you know, it just makes sense, and why shouldn't it be? What's there to hide? You know, from a tech perspective, it's not that complicated. You know, if the willingness is there to sort of do that, and from our perspective, you know, we want to be at the heart of that. That's absolutely, you know, on mission for us. And you know, we're you know, we're putting our head above the parapet here, you know, in terms of this sort of marketplace, you know, and this is a community effort. We're happy to take all the criticism around it's the wrong methodology, you're using the wrong this or the wrong that. Brilliant. Come back to us with some constructive criticism and help us build something better.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, these projects, you know, everything's in a very early stage right now. The markets are still forming around this new technology. And so everyone should be in it together, no doubt. Totally agree with that. It looks like it says a question about carbon credit retirement. Will you always retire the carbon credit on purchase, or are you looking to create the ability to buy, hold, and then trade the credit?
Matt, what do you think?
Initially, our default position is going to be retiring them on purchase, because that's the kind of cleanest way that we could handle kind of these Dovu certificate side of things. These are kind of conversations we've been having within internally. Those kind of things we could possibly pursue, but for now the focus is just to build a platform that's simple, that retires on purchase, and then as we gain more success, then we can grow into other kind of opportunities.
Yeah, and also, you know, we don't want to get involved in regulatory issues around sort of, you know, sort of asset trading in one form or another. So that's I think that's for, you know, a different crowd than us. Yeah, so I think for us, there's a big enough opportunity and benefit to the planet in just retiring on purchase and having proof that it's retired.
Because
and are these
sorry
about that.
At the end of the day, the power of Hedera state proof means that, you know, people can prove an event happened, their carbon was retired without having to utilize any other tool, which is extremely powerful, and, you know, it's very exciting.
Yeah, we certainly have a lot of interest in full state proofs going live, that ability to mathematically prove with confidence that actually happened. Just another level of data integrity that I think folks are anticipating. Are the farms that you're participating with, are they global, or are they only based in the UK today? Yeah,
well, I mean, to start with, we've gone, you know, we've started locally because, as I said earlier, I'm a farmer's son. And if you take a look at Wales, where I'm from, it's a small country in the UK, there are 16,000 farms, predominantly family farms, that would benefit massively from a new income from farming carbon. And therefore, but also within the type of land that's within those sort of farms, there's a huge amount of peat bogs, forestry, sort of small amount of livestock and so on. So it's a massive carbon store. So I think so for us, there's a huge amount of supply there that we can plug into. But absolutely, we're a global business, you know. So we've gone there because we know the habitat. We've got partners there that can do the verification. And we'll start off there, and then we'll start to expand that as we find suitable projects, partners, and farms to work with, or other projects. I quite like seaweed at the moment.
We've got a pretty specific question, someone who seems versed in the space. Who is the verifier you're using for carbon verification? Are you sticking with the gold standard of Vera, or going with an alternative approach like Nori, who leveraged the US forestry and regenerative tool with third-party verification? Or maybe it's up to the farmer and not really something that Dovu is participating in.
That's a really good question. We're more like Nori than we are gold standard. So the issue with farm and soil in terms of carbon methodology is that the existing sort of private registers that I was talking about, which are the sort of centralized arbiters of trust, really haven't figured out the methodology for carbon captured in soil. Jen, Nori, and us are the ones that are looking at sort of fixing that and coming up with proven methodologies to do that. We're just sort of closing off all of the sort of legal stuff and commercial stuff with the partners. And then as soon as that's done, we'll be able to publish who they are and the methodologies and everything else that we've got. So when we go live, which will be sort of very soon, then all of that will become open and transparent. But it's not our methodology. It is sort of scientifically and academically backed methodology that counts the carbon in the soil.
Excellent. And are you partnering with any other projects within the Hedera ecosystem today?
Well,
are we, Matt?
yeah, I mean, the kind of the main project that we're partnering with is the Interwork Alliance, the creation of the taxonomies for the ecological token designs. And we're doing a lot of work in creating a standard for these CDOs, these ecological tokens, and writing the implementation and working with Hedera and working with other parties to kind of make that as robust as we can. And this is something we're going to be working throughout the rest of this year and have an implementation fully ready on our marketplace by Q4.
Excellent. Yeah, worth mentioning too, I think Hedera is also part of that IWA framework. And I know on our team, Wes Geisenberger has been leading that on the sustainability front.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's see. Any time frame for launch for pushing this live?
That's for Matt to answer.
Well, starting tomorrow, we're going to be inviting people to between 10 and 15 individuals, people to actually become testers of this. And we're going to be throwing a big blog post or some kind of content about that, and to kind of test it out, kind of show us what works, what doesn't work, what doesn't make sense, and you kind of get on group calls together and kind of just work through these things to try to make this product the best it can be when we release with a real farm.
Yes, that's like a VIP program that we're launching.
Yeah.
There'll be some nice swag and environmentally friendly stuff, of course. And so if you want to get involved and help us, then that would be great. And then we'll, as I say, that's the next exciting stage, quickly followed by getting it out.
And there may or may not be exclusive NFTs on Hedera for these people.
Excellent. And it looks like there was some interest in the Q&A too. A few people dropped in that they have farms where they're doing carbon sequestration. So, definitely hit up Matt and Irfan the emails that they provided to participate in that or
Fantastic,
see if there's
yeah.
synergies there. Yeah. Okay, we've got time for, I think, one more question here. This one is about decentralized storage. Is there any plans to use decentralized storage, maybe even as a backup to IPFS for NFTs, or any other sort of decentralized storage mechanism that you would connect to it or allow someone to utilize?
Yeah, so we're exploring both IPFS and Filecoin, and this is going to be part of our strategy because we want to ensure that our NFTs that are released into the world are as durable as they can be. And so it's, yeah, Filecoin, IPFS, exploring all those options.
So, anything else you'd like to say to the audience before we close out here?
Matt?
I'm just really happy we're here and we've managed to demo, and it's very exciting, and just thank you for your time watching.
Yeah, same. I'd echo that. I think that the relationship that we've built, and the support we're getting from Hedera as well has been phenomenal. And I think it addresses the issue of, like, how can you be an environmentally friendly project when you've got a Ethereum token, and I think it's the ability for us to sort of build the trust layers, and evidence that we're building on Hedera has been phenomenal. So I thank you guys for that and all the help and support that you've given us to sort of get where we are. We're really excited about where we're at, and like I say, we're very open sort of organization. So if you want to criticize, please be constructive and help us. That's great, and we'll help to do, because I think that we can all, for this, everybody that's excited and interested in DLT, tokenization, and everything that brings to the world in the future, we can really be at the heart of that. So help us.
Excellent. It's been incredible watching your guys' journey so far. I remember, I think, when you first approached us and things were initially getting started, and the project's come such a long way. So that's awesome. We feel good helping a project that is in this space, also sustainability, helping the world. It's definitely a nice cause. And really appreciate you jumping on today and talking about the project, and looking forward to further updates.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Take care.